Femme House fam, what's happening? It is her Mix-a-Lot. I am here with Ceremony. It is Pass the Mic edition. The first of 2025, maybe? I don't know actually what date this is going to air. But I'm going to go with that for now. Ceremony, how you doing?
I'm awesome. Thank you for having me. How are you?
Thank you for being here. I'm great. We're recording this like the week before Christmas. And
Yes.
I'm driving down to LA tonight for
hmm
an indeterminate time. So
Where are you
outside of
now?
this, I live in Oakland.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, but outside of this like little screen where everything looks like very orderly and aesthetic, it looks like a bomb went off in every
It's okay,
other
me too. I'm
room.
I'm surrounded with boxes of Christmas ornaments and
Died. Glad we're on the same page and we got the same vibes in.
yes.
Ceremony, tell me your sort of like hero's journey. Tell me your origin story. How did you end up here to this exact moment talking to me?
Oof, oh my gosh. Yeah. So I'm 28 years old. I, however, have been a professional concert pianist for 22 years, which
Oh
sounds
wow.
crazy to say.
Yeah.
I started when I was 5 or 6, and my family is really artistic. My mom's a professional opera singer. My dad is a hobby guitarist. So there was always a musical influence around me. But in high school, I kind of fell in love with electronic music, and I had this dream of being a DJ, and so I would pretend to on my dresser in front of my mirror. um,
I can totally see it.
yes. But growing up, I was kind of, I guess, from first grade onward, I was labeled as the problem child. I was very loud, expressive, distracting to other kids in school, and so I was of course labeled ADHD, and then the frequent parent-teacher meetings turned into, visits with psychologists because I think my teachers were trying to tame my eccentric energy, and so I feel like I was kind of put into a box. However, I think my mom always saw through that, and she just intuitively knew that I was just simply a loud, eccentric, creative soul. I had a creative, eccentric spirit, and maybe I just wasn't kind of built for this dogmatic world. So, despite that and despite her support, I always felt the need to conform. So from 18 onward, I kind of molded myself to the cookie cutter standards of society, and I became a nurse, which, don't get me wrong, I love medicine. Nursing is so special to me, and I will always be a nurse. But it was the way that I showed up in the world that was inauthentic to my expression until I met my current partner. She's also a DJ in DC. She goes by Shama. And she is just such an incredible artist and free spirit. When I met her, not only did she show me the ropes of DJing, but she showed me that I just needed to give myself permission to be my most authentic self. So that was about 2, 3 years ago. And so yeah, becoming a DJ has actually just been so integral to my spiritual growth.
So you're a nurse, a
Yeah.
DJ, and a concert pianist.
Yes, I don't perform anymore, piano-wise. I stopped doing that a few years ago, but yes.
You should start bringing like a guitar or something to your
I
to
want
your
to.
sets.
I really want to. I've been really inspired by, I don't know if you know Double Touch. It's a DJ couple, and the girl is an incredible concert pianist, and she primarily does the keyboard while they play.
Yeah, it's a really obviously like that's LP's thing,
Oh yeah,
and
LP as well. Yeah.
yeah, and it really changes for me at least. And I go see a lot of DJs obviously by
Mm-hmm.
nature of my work, um, but it just changes the energy in a
Yes.
really different and specific way, and
Yeah.
I feel more engaged. I find the
Yes.
crowd feeling more
Yeah.
engaged too. Yeah.
It definitely shifts the way the DJ engages with the crowd, and I think that there's always just like this, like you can always see people's mouths open when they pull out the keyboard, and everyone's
Yeah.
just like, "Oh wow."
Yeah,
There's a
totally.
there's a presence.
Yeah, totally. Um, Let's talk about your name. I think it's so powerful, ceremony.
Yeah.
I always sort of, I think of the club as a church and the dance
Yes.
floor as an altar. Um,
Yes.
and all of that is ritual. All of that is
Yep.
ceremony. How did you
Yes.
come to your name?
I was in a moment of euphoria dancing at a festival, and it literally came to me. I wasn't happy with the name I had chosen. This was over a year ago. And I felt like it was exactly like you said. It encompassed like spiritual ceremony, like ceremonial expression, community. And I was like, well, that's exactly what, that's why I'm here. I have to choose this name.
Tell me about your community. It seems that you have a really strong sense of it. It seems that it's very important for you to cultivate your
Yeah.
name, obviously speaking, and
Yeah.
you offer community care as both a nurse and a DJ.
Yeah.
Tell me about how your community has sort of served you.
Yeah, so actually, I feel like, I mean, honestly, I wouldn't even be where I am if it weren't for community, and I'm really grateful for the community that we have in DC. I think that it's kind of DC has will surprise you. It will shock you in the best way, like for the music scene here. I think that DC has become a beacon of innovation and inclusivity, especially with the collectives that we have here. Some of them have really transformed and revitalized the energy in the city, and they've become such a safe space for people of all walks of life, LGBT people, BIPOC individuals. Like, it has just been so inclusive and accepting, and I think I expected something different when I first started, and the way people just kind of welcome you with open arms in DC is wonderful. I just met someone from New York the other day, and I was talking to them, and I asked them to compare the music scene between DC and New York. Obviously, New York is a huge city, you know, and they told me when I come to New York, or when I'm in New York, I find the music scene to be bigger with variety, of course, but I learn more when I come to DC. And I asked him, why is that? And he said, because of the people and not only their willingness, but their eagerness to share. And I
That's
think
really
that's,
powerful.
yeah, I was actually so surprised. Obviously, you can find that in New York, of course. But I never thought of that. Coming from a New Yorker's perspective, I was pleasantly surprised.
Let's talk a little bit about all of your identities and how they intersect behind the decks for you and on the dance
Yeah.
floor and all the communities that you
Yeah.
serve and belong to.
Yeah.
What does it mean to you to be, you know, female and queer and Arab and all these things that we're sort of programmed by society that to that are supposed to be like, you know, very specific things,
Yeah.
very very cages, as I like
Yeah.
to call them. What does it mean to you to bring all of yourself to this work?
I think it is a testament to the richness of the human spirit. We are multidimensional, multifaceted beings, and I know that people have a tendency to think that they can only be one thing. For the longest time, I thought that I can only be a nurse, that defined me, and that the trauma that I experienced on my job in the hospital defined me. But I think that learning to embrace, both roles, and not just those two roles, like I am so many more things than just a nurse and a DJ, it just begins with understanding that nobody is singularly defined by any one career or passion. And to answer your question about being a queer Arab, I am Palestinian and Lebanese. So I
From the
actually,
river to the sea.
yes, thank you. I actually came out as an Arab woman and as gay, a gay Arab woman, and as a DJ in the same time frame.
Wow.
Yeah, which was honestly a paradigm shift in my life, needless to
Sure.
say, especially to my father, who still carries some very conservative views and expectations for me. For a period of time, anytime that something went wrong in my life or something wasn't going well with my job, he would tell me, well, it's because of that DJ thing you're doing. When actually he didn't understand that it was quite the opposite. That was the one thing in my life that was enriching me and giving me purpose and direction. So I actually never questioned my experience being an Arab woman in the diaspora until I came out and realized that I was gay. I think it was really easy for me to kind of meld in. And that was what forced me to reflect on how it affects me. That was further emphasized recently, of course, when the conflict in Gaza and Lebanon broke out. Because I think me and I think a lot of other Arab artists felt almost like a level of guilt to be able to pursue passion and perform and experience joy when we know that, like, across an ocean, our brothers and sisters are just suffering like immeasurable pain. And I think the pinnacle moment for me in the past year was when I realized that continuing to create and perform is also a way of showing the world that our people are not just victims. You know, like, we're creatives, we're artists, we're dreamers. And so I think that's really powerful.
All of that speaks to, thank you for sharing, and thank you for, being vulnerable with me for a second. All of that to me sort of speaks to the transformative power of claiming your own power.
Yeah.
And almost wielding that to the rest of the world.
Yeah.
Because visual representation is important.
Yes, 100%. 100%.
All of our respective, like, superpowers are just ours.
Yeah.
And nonetheless, it's important that we all see each other and see ourselves reflected in each other.
Yes.
To remind us of the things that we can do to help with with our programming.
Yes.
To remind us that we have power and that we can pursue our dreams and our freedoms and our love. So that's really, thank you for sharing that. That's really awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
Shifting gears, back into my business executive mode. Tell the fam what they can expect from this mix.
Yeah, so I think that I have a passion for, like, the darker shades of house and techno. Yeah, I really love the dark stuff. I think it took me a while to admit that. I don't know why. I'm just like a moody Cancer. And I also really love, like, strange offbeat instrumentals. And I love to incorporate a little bit of, like, a tribal rhythm. So I think that's kind of the sound that I want to bring to this mix.
The sounds of ceremony, literally.
Thank
like,
you.
If you
Yeah.
do an ayahuasca journey, it's like all that dark, moody, tribal stuff. It's like, mimics the heartbeat. Mimics
Exactly.
the
Yes, which is why I love it. It's so primal.
Yeah. Where can we catch you? Tell the fam how to find you. What's next for you, or what are the shows you've got going on? Tell us everything.
Yeah. Well, I'm based in DC. I would love to expand my radar across the East Coast. That's my goal. Of course, you can follow me on Instagram at Ceremony DJ. You can find me on SoundCloud. Actually, in light of seasonal depression, I've decided to release a weekly mix. I'm gonna call it.
Gotta channel it.
Yeah. I'm gonna call it Groove with the Seasons. And I'm quite, like, witchy spiritual, so I plan to run the weekly mix starting from the day of the winter solstice, which is December 21st. And represents the beginning of the dark period, and then run it through Imbolc, which is February 1st, and that's kind of represents the time of renewal, new beginnings, like when the earth awakens from the slumber, So yeah, that's kind of like what I've got on my radar. Honestly, aside from a few local shows this winter, I've kind of taken some much needed rest to go inward and refine my artistic vision, and actually that's kind of why I'm starting my production journey, finally diving into that.
Awesome.
Yeah, I wanted to learn how to produce, years ago, and that's what I did before I ever got involved with DJing. But I felt so alone, and I knew nobody in the community, so I kind of abandoned it. But I'm a little grateful that I started DJing first because, I mean, one, it taught me like musical structure, but also what inspires me. And then I was talking to a good friend and an incredible producer, Late London, the other week, and he told me, it's time to learn to produce when you hear something unique and there isn't enough of that, and you have the desire to create more of it. So, yeah, that's where I'm at in my journey right now.
Yeah, the gift of, sort of being a DJ before you produce is that, to further your friend's point, like, you start to hear music all the time, quite literally, because you're listening to music all the time.
Yeah.
And you start to pick out what's missing, and you start to pick out, like, what would I do sonically differently than this?
Yes.
And you start to develop a taste.
Yeah.
And all of those are 90% of the battle in learning how to produce.
Yes.
Any moron can, like, figure out how to move a mouse around and
Right.
and like learn what is essentially just a software program.
Yep.
So you're going in at a good time with a powerful toolkit at your disposal.
Thank you.
already.
Yeah, I feel good about it finally. I was like, I don't know, I just have this belief that, like, when the time is right, you'll know. And I pressured myself. I was like, you got to learn how to produce. You got to learn how to produce. Everyone's doing it. And I was like, you know what? I'll know when it's time. And I feel like it's time.
Yeah, it calls
like
to
I
you
feel ready.
when
Yeah,
you're
it
ready.
definitely does. It definitely calls to you.
So a thing that I love to ask everyone that I speak to, and I've been doing it for as long as I've been interviewing and doing panels and stuff, which at this point I don't even know how long it's been. And so I've started to see sort of like a thread, and I'm continuing to test the theory of my thread. If you, Ceremony, are sitting down with your younger self, you're sitting down with, like, little Ceremony who doesn't even know that she's Ceremony yet, what do you say to her? How do you keep her going? How do you get her here today, now?
I would tell her that she's a free spirit and not to let anybody tie her down. That's simply put. Actually, because I feel like that's just kind of been the narrative of my whole life, is tying myself down because other people wanted to tie me down, confining myself, and it led me to silence my own creative expression, and I realized that creativity is my lifeline. Like, when I am not creating, I suffer, my health suffers, I start finding it manifesting in different ways, my anxiety amps up, I get skin problems. It's almost like my body is screaming at me saying, like, we need to create. There's like a channel of energy, and in addition to that, I would say create for the purpose of expressing, and not for the purpose of making something that you approve of or that somebody else approves of.
That's powerful. And you were like the 500th person to prove my theory.
Yeah?
I always get some version of it's okay to be who you are.
Yeah.
And in fact, that will change your life once you realize that.
Because that's the world we live in. It's a world that makes you feel like it's not. But I think the way that everybody gets to that realization is so beautiful, because it's so uniquely different for everyone. Everybody's soul yearns for a special something that is just, it's a reflection of their own unique expression. And, for me, that's DJing, that's creation, but it's not always necessarily creation or art or whatever. Everybody's soul yearns for something that they tend to neglect.
Sure. Well, thank you for being here. Thank you for being vulnerable. Thanks for the ways that you heal.
Thank you for having
both
me.
Materially and musically.
I appreciate that.
Thank you for all you do for the community. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free, baby. Promise you that.
Yes. I love to hear that.
Yeah, well, it's really an honor to chat with you today.
Likewise.
This is Femme House, and we are your house.